In the beginning, even before the conception of time, God existed as the sole being, in a state of eternal magnificence. In an act of unparalleled creative power, he decided to bring forth existence, creating the heavens and the earth. The crown of this magnificent creation was man, molded in the very image of God, a living being, conscious and endowed with free will. In the early days, harmony reigned, and man enjoyed divine closeness in the Garden of Eden. However, even in this paradise, humanity faced its greatest trial. Adam and Eve, the first humans, succumbed to the serpent's temptation. The forbidden fruit, offered with deceptive promises, became the catalyst for the fall. Disobedience stained creation, introducing sin into the world and forever altering the relationship between God and his children. By biting into the fruit, Adam and Eve experienced the bitter reality of separation from God. The initial purity was replaced by the knowledge of good and evil, and Eden was left behind, guarded by cherubim. This episode, recorded in the pages of the Bible, illustrates human frailty and the need for redemption. After the fall, humanity continued its trajectory, marked by the complexity of human nature and God's relentless pursuit of restoration. The ancient world was fraught with intrigue and challenges, with societies forming and establishing themselves in diverse ways. However, the hearts of the people turned away from morality and integrity, giving in to temptations and straying from the path of righteousness. The book of Genesis transports us to this period, where humanity, despite divine guidance, found itself in a state of moral decay. Relationships between people were marked by betrayal, greed, and an unbridled pursuit of power. In Genesis 6 verses 1-2 we read, "And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Some interpretations of this passage suggest that sons of God refers to angels who, disobeying the natural order, descended to earth and interacted with women, resulting in a hybrid race of giants. This would have been the final straw that led God to send the flood. However, other interpretations argue that Genesis chapter 6 should be read in context with chapters 4 and 5. In chapter 4 we see the descendants of Cain, while in chapter 5 those of Seth, the third son of Adam. Thus, the term daughters of men seems to refer to the women descended from the wicked lineage of Cain, while Seth's descendants represent the lineage faithful to the Creator, referred to as sons of God. The word giant that defines the offspring of the intermingling of these lineages can also be translated as fallen or tyrants. Regardless of the interpretation, in this turbulent context arose the figure of Noah, a man of extraordinary righteousness and integrity, who stood out amidst the corruption. Noah was the son of Lamech and grandson of Methuselah. He had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The book of Genesis describes him as righteous among his contemporaries, and a just man in his generations. These words echo as a divine commendation of Noah's integrity, making him a central figure amidst the moral decadence engulfing the world. While the society around him indulged in corrupt practices and distanced itself from divine ways, Noah remained steadfast in his devotion to God and his irreproachable conduct. In the face of growing corruption, God, in his sovereignty and justice, resolved to cleanse the earth through a flood. The biblical account found in the book of Genesis reveals the divine decision to intervene, and Noah, with his righteousness and justice, is chosen to be the instrument of preservation. God calls Noah and gives him detailed instructions on building the ark. The complexity of the project reflects the seriousness of the divine purpose. Noah, as a man of unwavering faith, receives the monumental task with submission and obedience. The ark was, according to the biblical account, 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. A cubit, an ancient unit of measurement no longer in use today, would be about 45 centimeters. Thus, the ark's dimensions would be equivalent to 135 m long, 22.5 m wide, and 13.5 m high, resulting in an area of over 2,000 square meters. The Bible describes the ark as having 3 decks, an opening for light, and compartments for animals of all species. God, in his omniscience, reveals the exact specifications to Noah, each detail communicated clearly, reflecting divine foreknowledge. The construction of the ark using wood and pitch is an integral part of the divine plan, ensuring durability and preservation. The work proceeds with Noah and his family tirelessly dedicating themselves to the construction. The disbelief of the society around him does not waver him. On the contrary, it intensifies his determination to obey the divine voice. It is uncertain how many years it took Noah to build the ark. The apocryphal book of Jasher in chapter 3 states that Noah took 100 years to build it. It seems like a reasonable time, considering the need to organize planting and food reserves for Noah's family and the animals aboard the ark. An additional miracle unfolds as peaceful coexistence between animals of different species is established. The biblical account not only emphasizes the animals' obedience to divine instructions but also the peace and harmony reigning within the ark, defying natural expectations and highlighting God's providential hand. The onset of the flood is described as the floodgates of heaven being opened, with celestial waters pouring incessantly upon the earth. The biblical description emphasizes that all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. The torrential rains begin to transform the familiar landscape into an unrecognizable scene, setting the stage for the flood that will engulf all creation. As the waters advance relentlessly, swallowing plains, mountains, and everything in their path, the biblical narrative underscores the universality of the flood. The Bible makes it clear that all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. The rain falls ceaselessly for 40 days and 40 nights, plunging the earth into a state of constant flux. The ark built by Noah floats in this vast ocean of turbulent waters, representing not just a physical shelter but a symbol of divine salvation. Amidst the flood, the narrative highlights the divine providence guiding the ark through the waters, protecting Noah and his family. The biblical text describes Noah, after long days of the flood, deciding to send out a dove to investigate the conditions outside the ark. The dove, a messenger of life, flies over the turbulent waters, indicating that the earth's surface was not yet ready to welcome life again. However, the narrative gains depth when the dove returns to the ark with an olive leaf in its beak. Noah, interpreting the dove's gesture as confirmation of the earth's restoration, awaits with patience and gratitude the right moment to open the ark's window. The Bible points out that Noah waited another 7 days before opening the window again, indicating his caution and desire to confirm the stability of the ground before disembarking. God's covenant with Noah after the flood represents a culminating point in the biblical narrative, marking the transition from destruction to the promise of a new era. The account found in the book of Genesis reveals the compassionate and redemptive nature of the Creator who, after the catastrophic flood, establishes a lasting covenant with Noah and all creation. The narrative begins with Noah and his family leaving the ark, witnessing a transformed earth after the flood. In this post-catastrophe setting, Noah offers sacrifices to the Lord as an expression of his gratitude and devotion. It is in this context that God, in his mercy, establishes the covenant with Noah, promising never again to destroy all life on earth through a flood. The symbolism of the rainbow emerges as a crucial element in this divine covenant. God declares that the rainbow will be the visible sign of this promise, a constant reminder of the covenant between him and all creation. The consequences of the flood narrated in the book of Genesis transcend the cataclysmic event itself, extending to the changes in the earth and humanity. The waters receded, revealing an altered landscape in regions previously submerged. The account mentions the formation of mountains and valleys, suggesting a geological reconfiguration caused by the flood's titanic forces. The consequences for humanity are also notable. The Bible describes that Noah and his family, the sole survivors of the flood, became the progenitors of all post-flood humanity. The genealogies unfolding after the event trace the lines of future nations and peoples, outlining the human diversity that emerged from Noah's family. Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their respective wives, are presented as the parents of the different lineages that spread across the earth. Each lineage gave rise to various ethnic groups and nations, contributing to human diversity. Shem was blessed by Noah and given the responsibility to repopulate the region later known as the Middle East. This region is often associated with Semitic peoples, including Hebrews and Arabs. Japheth was assigned the task of repopulating the regions encompassing Europe and parts of Asia. Genesis 9 verse 27 states, God shall enlarge Japheth. Ham, in turn, was designated to repopulate the region later associated with Africa. Ham's descendants are commonly linked to African peoples. This division of responsibilities was symbolically represented by Noah's blessing upon his sons. Each was destined to play a role in repopulating the earth, contributing to the ethnic and cultural diversity that would arise in subsequent eras. It's worth recalling the episode of disobedience associated with Ham's lineage. One day Noah planted a vineyard and upon becoming drunk with wine, lay uncovered within his tent. His youngest son Ham saw his father's nakedness and instead of covering him or maintaining discretion, went and told his older brothers Shem and Japheth. Shem and Japheth, unlike Ham, showed respect for their father's nakedness. They entered the tent backward, carrying a garment to cover Noah without looking at him. When Noah awoke, he learned of what had happened. He pronounced a curse on Ham's lineage while blessing the lineages of Shem and Japheth. This genealogy serves as a foundation for subsequent biblical narratives, connecting the stories of the great patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to post-flood humanity. The story of the Tower of Babel is found in the book of Genesis in the Old Testament of the Bible, specifically in verses 1 to 9 of chapter 11. This narrative begins after the flood when humanity starts multiplying and spreading across the earth. Although the Bible mentions the Tower of Babel, its exact location is uncertain. Various theories and hypotheses suggest it could have been located in Mesopotamia, in ancient Babylon, or another region. At the beginning of the story, all the earth's inhabitants spoke the same language and had a common purpose: to build a city with a tower reaching the heavens. This tower, known as the Tower of Babel, was seen as a symbol of human power and achievement. The main motivation behind this endeavor was clear. They wanted a demonstration of power and authority and also sought to avoid being scattered across the face of the earth. Given that the biblical narrative occurs after Noah's flood, the builders of the Tower of Babel might also have harbored a lingering fear of another flood. They could have believed that building a tall tower reaching the heavens was a way to protect themselves against a catastrophic flood's return. This motivation would be linked to preserving life and ensuring the community's survival in an environment where the flooding of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers posed a real threat. However, the desire for protection against a new flood demonstrated disbelief in God, as after the flood, the Lord God made it clear, "Never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of the flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth." Genesis 9 verse 11. Another theory suggests the Tower of Babel might have been built as a defensive military structure. In ancient Mesopotamia, city-states often faced threats of invasions from neighboring peoples or pagan tribes. Constructing a tall tower could have served as a strategic observation post to detect approaching enemies and a fortress for protection in case of attack. Thus, the tower would have both practical and symbolic functions, representing the city's defense against external threats. The builders of the tower believed they could reach the heavens through their own skills and efforts, thus challenging God's authority and will. This symbolized human rebellion against the Creator. It's worth remembering that in Genesis 9 verse 1, God blessed Noah and his sons, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth." God had commanded humanity to spread across the earth after the flood. The builders of the tower disobeyed this command, demonstrating their disbelief and lack of submission to the divine will, preferring to follow their own path over divine guidance. Led by a man named Nimrod, whose charisma and persuasive power were immeasurable, the builders had grandiose ambitions, and this ambition led to the desire to construct an ever-taller tower that would ultimately reach the sky. A descendant of Noah, Nimrod is mentioned in the Bible as a notable king of great power on earth. According to Jewish interpretations, Nimrod was responsible for building the Tower of Babel. Nimrod was known as a tyrannical leader who sought to turn people away from worshiping God. In this context, the idea of building the tower arose in an attempt to defy God. It is important to note that Babel was the capital of the wealthy and powerful Babylon, where constructing pyramid-shaped temples was common among Babylonians, Sumerians, and Assyrians. However, God, disappointed, observed what was happening and decided to intervene in the construction. He would not allow humanity to follow its own path, defying his authority and, most importantly, disobeying his instructions. So God, in a divine act, decided to confuse the languages of all the tower's builders. Suddenly, each builder began to speak and understand a different language, making communication between them impossible. Initially, this act caused enormous confusion, disrupting the project's continuation and the plans to build a tower reaching the heavens. After the confusion of languages, chaos ensued in that city. The inability to communicate and coexist in a society with various groups of people speaking different languages led to humanity's dispersion into different groups and regions. The name Babel is derived from the Hebrew word Balal, meaning confusion. This directly refers to the confusion of languages that occurred in the story. This dispersion of the population across different regions fulfilled God's original will for humanity to spread throughout the earth after the flood, so it would be fully populated. Each language group gave rise to its own culture, nation, and identity. The story of the Tower of Babel is often linked to the emergence of Semitic languages like Hebrew and Aramaic. This has profound implications for the history of language. Moreover, the resulting diversification of human languages from the Tower of Babel shaped the history and culture of humanity, demonstrating how biblical events have profoundly influenced the world throughout the centuries. The saga of the patriarchs, marked by complex family relationships and divinely orchestrated events, played a crucial role in biblical history, shaping the trajectory of God's people. Abraham, originally called Abram, is considered the central patriarch in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions. He is revered as a key figure in the relationship between God and humanity. The story of Ishmael and Isaac begins with the complex relationship between Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar. Initially, Abraham and Sarah face Sarah's infertility. Despite God's promise of numerous descendants, they remained childless. In a moment of desperation, Sarah suggested that Abraham have a child with her servant Hagar, and Ishmael was born. However, tensions between Sarah and Hagar grew. With divine intervention, Sarah finally gave birth to Isaac, whose name means laughter, symbolizing the fulfillment of God's promise. The story continues with Isaac's sons, Jacob and Esau. With the help of his mother Rebekah, Jacob deceived his father and received the blessing meant for his elder brother. On his journey, Jacob had an extraordinary dream of a ladder connecting earth to heaven. God reaffirmed his promises, transforming Jacob into Israel, a pivotal moment in the history of the chosen people. Among Jacob's sons, Joseph stood out. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, he was taken to Egypt, where he faced numerous trials. Thanks to his faithfulness and ability to interpret dreams, Joseph rose to the position of governor in Egypt, saving countless lives during a time of famine. Moses was chosen to deliver the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. After confronting Pharaoh with the 10 plagues, he led the people through the Red Sea, where God performed one of the greatest miracles in history. In the desert, Moses received the 10 Commandments, establishing a covenant between God and the people of Israel. The period of the Judges was marked by cycles of unfaithfulness and repentance. Deborah, Gideon, and Samson were leaders raised by God to deliver Israel from their oppressors. Each played a unique role, demonstrating that faithfulness to God always brings victory. From shepherd to king, David defeated Goliath and unified Israel. Despite his fall into sin through adultery with Bathsheba, David showed deep repentance. His leadership solidified the nation and brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, reaffirming the centrality of worshiping God. Solomon's reign is remembered for his divine wisdom and the construction of the majestic Temple of Jerusalem. However, political alliances and idolatry led to spiritual decline, culminating in the division of the kingdom after his death. The kingdom split into Israel and Judah. While Israel fell to the Assyrians, Judah was conquered by Babylon, marking the exile. Even so, God sent prophets like Jeremiah and Ezekiel to deliver messages of hope and restoration. Nehemiah led the rebuilding of Jerusalem's walls and brought spiritual renewal to the people. His story is a powerful reminder of what can be accomplished through faith, prayer, and leadership. After the Old Testament, there were 400 years of prophetic silence, but God was preparing the way for the Messiah. The hope for redemption culminated in the birth of Jesus Christ, ushering in a new chapter in human history. This is the story of the Old Testament, a narrative of promises, divine faithfulness, and preparation for redemption. If you want to continue this journey with us and explore the complete story of the New Testament, leave your comment, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. May God bless you and your family. See you in the next video.